Alright, I have an ozone shock generator. This produces a very large amount of ozone gas. There's probably plenty of stuff on YouTube about that. It's frequently used to essentially get rid of odors and smells, used a lot in cars for cigarette smoke. I have this for a story we won't get into, but it's been sitting around. There are some cool things you can kind of do with this, especially if you enclose this in a small box. You can use it to essentially clean things like shoes, air filters, stuff like that. So this is good. Produces ozone gas, highly volatile, really bad for you. So I want a way to control this beyond just is it plugged in or not through the cable. So I have here a tiny little relay. You can pick these up on Amazon, a couple bucks. They're little pre-built units. As well as a Wemos D1 mini clone. I don't know who makes this one, but again, a few bucks for these. I use these in pretty much all of my projects because for what they are, they're very cheap, and they've got little battery hats for them. So if you're making any IoT devices, highly recommend these. They're pretty cool. So we're gonna see if we can take this, have it control the relay to turn this on and off, and put it all inside this box, which might prove to be a terrible idea, especially if this box acts as a Faraday cage and I have no Wi-Fi signal. If that's the case, I might swap over to these little Seed Studio devices. I have a couple of these, but the benefit here is they have the tiny little connector to hook up an external antenna, so I could run that potentially out of the side here and pop an antenna on top. So first step is the code. Hooking up a relay, pretty straightforward. This should just be a normal box with probably a couple wire nuts in it. Just turns it on and off when you plug it in. The code for this, though, need it to act essentially as its own Wi-Fi HTTP server. It needs to serve up a web page. It asks you for a couple variables. What I'm thinking of for this is probably three options. One will be a duration. That's how long is this thing turned on. Second would be pause. How long is it turned off? And third would be cycles. How many times to repeat that? So if you were doing ozone shock treatment, you could do something like, run this for 10 seconds, pause for 3 minutes, repeat that 10 times. Whatever ends up working for, the situation I'm in at that point. So I'm not super great at coding, so we're going to try to use ChatGPT. So I've already put it in here and gave it the explanation of, hey, I have this device, I want it to have Wi-Fi, I want to feed it some information, and I want you to essentially set a pin high or low. It did spit out some code here. A quick review, this looks pretty straightforward. I mean, pretty much exactly what I'm looking for here. So, we're going to give this a try and put it into the IDE and see if it compiles. So I have my code. It's just pasted over here into the IDE. I've saved it as a project, ozonegenerator.ino. This is just straight pasted from the website, and we'll see if it compiles. It compiles. Okay, great. So I'm going to hook up the little Arduino device here, little D1 Mini. I saw the flash, so we got power. And we are just going to upload this. We are uploaded. So the access point did show up. I was able to connect here. We'll zoom in a little bit here. And it is asking for my parameters I specified. So we have cycles, pause, and duration. So we're just going to put in some random numbers here and see what happens when I click submit. Parameter set. All right, I'm gonna try it. No, I'm not gonna hook it up yet. Let me try this real quick. We are going to see if this is actually turning on and off as expected. So we have the Pocket Meter app. We have this one. So we're going to say cycles 5. We'll say 1 second for pause, 1 second for duration, and we'll get this ready. So I need to measure. I want to measure with an oscilloscope. I want, let's see, it should be 3.3 volts, so we'll do 1 volt per division. Go with 1 second. We're on DC, we're on volts. Okay, got it. Okay. So I'm gonna time these right. Start that, submit that. So you can see it's a very tiny line, but it did not have any spikes. So something's not working with the code. Alright, so let's troubleshoot the code. Alright, so after some troubleshooting, this is back to me not being a great coder. I'm not gonna blame ChatGPT on this one. This is probably something strange with Arduino, but essentially D1 wasn't working. So normally with these you can specify the pin based on the name on the device here. So over here, it's listed as D1, D2, D3, all of that on the physical chip. In the code, you can normally refer to it as that, but hey, for whatever reason, you had to use the actual GPIO number, which fortunately, it even told me in the ChatGPT code, GPIO 5. So swap that to a 5 instead of D1. As you can see, I did run it here. Alright, so I have this and a screwdriver. And we have that, and surprise, there's already a relay in there. 3D printed, this will just be PLA. These gigantic pins on the bottom of this thing, not touching anything. So, we have that in there. We do have plenty of room to wrap this in some Kapton tape or something and just kind of jam it in there. What I don't know what I'm going to do is how I'm going to power this. So I need 5 volts. USB power, preferably to plug it in from 120 here. Alright, well, this is probably not a great idea. So I'm one of those people that keeps all these power bricks around anytime you get something new. You never know when you need these to power IoT devices. So these are great. You don't need anything strong. This is 5 volts, 1 amp. That is overkill for this, absolutely. But it's what I have. 1 amp, not a lot. It's going to charge a phone pretty slow, so really that's about the only use for these. So I'm going to crack this open and see what's inside of it and see if I can maybe just use this to power this project. That's a dent in the desk. What a pain. Okay, so this is essentially the package I was looking for here. So I think I can do something with this. I will need to solder wires here and here. That is from my connector that just slides in and touches those. So that's pretty creative in the manufacturing. And there's my USB out. I may just find a short USB micro cable, so I don't have to worry about removing this, butchering any wires or inputs or anything. And just get normal, nice, clean power for it. Same reason I keep all those little plugs and everything. I also keep little tiny cables. So I think what I can do, wire this up, tap into this, get my power my device, very simple hookup to this, and should be good to go. So we don't need a lot of wire. We're just gonna what is it, stranded? All right, I'm just gonna pick a little bit. All right, that's fine. I didn't get a lot on that either. Okay, all right, so we have 3 wires coming out of this. That is the ground. We're neutral. We have our hot. Alright, so I need to hit the neutral and the hot as well. Reasonably secured. We are tapped in. Alright, so little USB power meter. Do micro USB in. Make sure we're powered up. There we go. 5 volts. Great. So let me work on wrapping this. This worries me here. Probably should have recorded that, but hey, beautifully wrapped. We have the Arduino. We need to wire this. This requires a ground connection, a positive connection, and the signal source. So that'll be our D1 pin, the GPIO 5. GPIO 5. Okay, 20 gauge wire, way too big for that. I do have, that happen to be here, some of this 28 gauge silicone wire. Very soft, very flexible, very tiny. Doesn't need to take a lot of current in here. Alright, let's soldering iron back out. Should have left it plugged in. That heat up real quick. Alright, so we want 5 volt ground and D1 all on the same side here. I'm going to, yeah, I guess I will go through the bottom on these. So we'll run 5 volt. Ooh, it's hard to do from the bottom. 5 volt through here. Just wrap it over. That's fine for what this is. I will also be wrapping this in Kapton tape. That's that. For my signal, we are using D1. I'll wrap it over. Solder. And then just ground. Wrap it over. Alright. That's doing okay. One of these wrapped over a bit much, so I'm going to trim that 5 volt. And that looks okay. Now for these, this just has pins on it. So I'm going to grab my box of circuit board / pin connectors. All the other kits that you get, ignore this. All the other kits you buy online that come with pins and various things, I again save all of those. So if I can find a 3-pin email one, 4-pin. Oop, there we go. 3-pin. Now I have a very simple removable connector. I just need to solder these very tiny wires to it and make sure I solder them in the correct order. So we're going to cut this. This should be ground. This should be signal. And this is my 5 volts here. We will actually pre-solder all these as well. A little bit of solder makes it a lot easier. To the pin. I'll do the same thing on the pin. Try these right order. Right, so it is signal positive. So we have signal. We have positive in the middle. And then negative. And there. Now we have a nice Confusing connector. Alright, we'll do the old Kapton tape trick. There you have it. We have a connector. Alright, so looking at it, we have voltage in the middle. My ground's on the right hand side over here. So I'm going to plug it in. Okay, I saw a blue flash. I have power. I'm going to go back on my phone. I'm going to connect to the Wi-Fi, which should be called something with ozone generator. I am connected to ozone generator, and I'm going to pull up the app, or the website rather. Got my parameters. I'm just going to refresh fine. So for cycles, we're going to do 1. For the pause in seconds, 1, and for the duration, 1. And I don't know, see if this works. Yep. Alright. Don't know if you could hear that. You can hear the click. This is a terrifying sound. Very high voltage. That's what these are. High voltage transformers. That worked. Oh, ooh. I smell it. It's hitting me. Ooh. Wafted away. Okay. That's it. I mean, that's the project. That's what I set out to do. So I'm going to unplug that. This, as it stands, works. So the last little bit is try to reasonably see if I can. One last thing. Sorry, I forgot to wrap the Arduino here. Well, I might have got my hopes up. Nope, that'll work. Oh, that has to work. Oh. Well, that was scary. Alright, so the camera I'm filming with gets very hot, so I decided to be smart and set a heatsink on it, and apparently it's artillery. Alright, put that back. My lid, my screws, let's see if it closes. It's got a little bit of a hump, so I think I am okay to go. So the real question will be, does this Wi-Fi still work inside the notebooks? Okay, that's that. I'm going to plug it in. Okay, it's plugged in. No sparks. We are going to run one more test. Should be booted now. Let me connect to the Wi-Fi again. Ozone generator connected. I am at the web page for it. Alright, well, I have a signal. Seems alright. Cycles 1, pause 1, duration 1, and it worked. Alright, that's that. That's all I set out to do. I might add some features, might change a few things with the HTML and some of the options, maybe set a timer in there, but when you start messing with NTP and other network time, it just complicates things. So that's that for that project. Oh, and I guess one more thing, because you couldn't really tell with the lights here, is that this makes a very spooky, eerie purple glow. So I'm going to see if I can catch that. So we're going to go back to cycles 5, pause 1. Duration, I'm going to run it for 3 seconds. So I'm going to shut the light off here and see if we get an eerie purple glow. I'm going to go for 3 seconds. Oh no. I did 5 cycles. Oh. Alright. I'm going to get out of here. That stinks.